All right, hey everyone, welcome back to the broadcast Corolla for episode 2 in this 3-part series on how to get a quality improvement project launched. So with that, we will try to make it a little snazzier this time. So let me put some music on for the intro, and as we transition to the first example here. Okay, that just randomly whatever's on NPR. I didn't set that correctly, so whatever. Anyways, moving on. So last time we talked about the project charter, and this is actually an example of one that I've put together for this video project. So you can kind of see the elements are already kind of pre-populated. We got the date, we got the topic, and then this project I just kind of started calling Project Wiki, so WIQI. Which I think is kind of snazzy. And the intent there is, we're going to try to make this a democratic process where people are able to provide feedback, and that feedback is going to what's drive any changes to the series as it moves forward. So, down here, you can see that team members include the whole YouTube audience, and then sort of the trainees at the hospital where I work, and graduate medical education at some point if we can get this championed by them. Okay, so that's kind of that first page, and I'll just show you the second page of this project. So this is sort of the rest of the charter, and then I'll just kind of zoom out a bit so you can take this all in, and feel free to pause the video at this point to read some of that. But yeah, starting with the problem statement, why this project is being launched, what is driving the investment here to try and make a change, make an improvement. The pilot site, in this case, leveraging the reach of this new age of media, that we actually don't need a pilot site. This is just a video, and it's going to reach the entire world, just through YouTube. And the primary measure and sort of the process scope. Again, this is sort of the boundaries of the project, sort of where the project is going to make the modifications, and then everything outside of this scope, so everything outside of posting the video and whatnot, is stuff that we're just not going to care about for this particular project. This just helps to put guardrails up so you don't exceed your scope and get into scope creep, which has the habit of putting a lot of projects either in escalating budget or just threat of getting out of control, in other words. So this is a control element for the project. And the aim statement down here is, again, kind of what we're trying to achieve. So, what, how good, and then by when. Okay. So 100 total views in this per video in this series by July 1st, 2020. And this area, again, is meant to be encouragement. So you don't want to set the goal too crazily out of reach, but you want it to be at the higher end of what might be realistic, just so that folks feel emboldened and driven to get to achieve as best of a performance as possible. So where does 100 views come from? Well, it's from the fact that this particular, the first video, got 38 views, and there aren't that many people in the hospital who are going to be doing this kind of process improvement, but there's more than 38, and there are more trainees and residents and fellows out there, medical students included. So that's and 100 is a nice round number, so 100 total views, that's not too lofty. We're not shooting for a PewDiePie level view counts here on these videos, but 100 seems reasonable, so we'll set that as our goal. And next is setting up the measures. So you'll see kind of the measures I have listed on the left, the type that of measure in the middle, and where I'm going to get these data from. And you'll see that a lot of them are just going to be automatically pulled from YouTube via their analytics service. So there's not a whole lot of manual entry. And this section, again, is just forcing you to think about, if these are the data that I want, where am I going to source them from? and being methodical with that and intentional and pre-planning that is going to be super important. So as you fill out the charter, again, this should take about an hour or less. Probably half of that time should be devoted to just blocking out this particular section, and then sort of the type of measure is indicated in that middle column. So a lot of outcomes and no process. Process, again, was sort of what the staff are doing, and this is a very passive activity. There's no work really that needs to be done after posting the video, so most of those are outcomes and there's no process. And balance is a good one to keep in mind. Balance, again, is sort of just monitoring for unintended consequences, negative unintended consequences. And so here is, as I take a look at feedback and if folks are like, well, you need better production value in these videos, blah, blah, blah. To get there and to drive some of these other outcome measures in the positive direction, I want to make sure that the production time stays reasonable. So there's always ways in terms of investing money and time to make these super slick, but I don't want to take 2 hours to make a single video, right? So that is keeping track of the production time there as a balance indicator. Deliverables, pretty self-explanatory. These are just the sort of tangible things that we're going to create as a result of this project. And on the back, kind of the high-level strategic plan for how we're going to go about implementing the project. This is not meant to be granular. The granularity is going to come from the PDSA cycle worksheet, which we'll introduce in video 3. And you'll see that already listed there under the first bullet point. But this kind of is a high-level roadmap to get you going in the direction and to have sort of a conception in your mind of how this project should ideally evolve. This is all modifiable as time goes on. A lot of that modification will be done through the PDSA cycle worksheets. But yeah, it's good to have thought out at this point, ideally, how this project is going to go. So with that, I'm going to go back to the measure set. Okay, and the last tip from last time was that after you fill this table in, really what you want to do is turn this 90 degrees and reverse the column headers there, left to right, and you should get the column headers for your Excel spreadsheet, which I have placed now here. And you'll see all of those elements are really in there. So the date produced, the production time, the date uploaded, and the 100 view benchmarks. Basically taking those elements and just translating it in there. So some of those are going to be calculations. I put the training participation. I want to do that on a separate tab. But the rest of them are, translated fairly faithfully down here. And then essentially what I've marked here is how to set up your spreadsheet with a time element on the left. And that's just going to be, either week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or PSA cycle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's a way that you can increment. And this is because the data that you're going to display, the x-axis will always be time, the progression of time. The demographics of each line entry is the second block, and then the performance data is that third block, and then the calculations you can either do on the side of that, the performance data block, or on another tab, and that's where you'll set up your sort of equations to figure out the amount of time elapsed between, for instance, here the date uploaded to the date that it reached 100 views, the average numbers of unique viewers, the average comments per PDSA cycle, or something like that. So this is how you set up your how you set up your data form. And once you get this essentially mocked up, then the project is ready for cruise, because all you're going to be doing is adding rows to this as the data comes in. And that should take no more than about 15 to 20 minutes commitment per day if we're doing it right. That makes the project sustainable, and the planning for each incremental step of the project is going to happen in this PDSA cycle worksheet form that we will discuss in the next video. I'm about to run out of batteries, so with that, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.